Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenny Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now. Hi there, it's Chris, and today on the Manifestation and Money podcast, I'm speaking with Philip Wride. After spending 20 years working in the video game industry, Philip had a tough few years starting in January 2020. First, he broke his neck playing sport and couldn't afford surgery, and from there he struggled to keep his business going during the COVID lockdowns. It wasn't until starting his personal development journey in 2021 that he began to make many positive changes in his life and work. Since then, he's transformed into a life and business coach, helping people break free of the chains holding them back. Listen as we discuss his journey and delve into his current book, Finally Find Freedom: How to Break the 12 Chains Holding You Back and Find More Freedom in Life and Business. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Philip. Can you please share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Chris. Where to start? 23 years in the video games industry. So I started at the age of 16 as an entrepreneur, building a variety of businesses, agencies for the most part, but I've also worked in the tech space, built technology platforms and done things like that. And then most recently, from January 2020, everything has been changing for me. So there's a sports injury, there was personal development, obviously smack bang in the middle of that for everybody else as well. There was COVID,
yes.
Which, I was hit by. I guess paraphrase it, it's a long career in one industry to then have a moment in time where everything changed, and now on a completely different path in life. So, coaching, supporting people, because I had one of those realizations in my own life of, I need to do more. I need to help more people. I need to have more of an impact.
So what was the catalyst for that big pivot in your life?
So that is the injury in 2020. So January 2020, I broke my neck playing rugby. I didn't know it for 7 weeks. I just went and got physio. And then the physio said, yeah, this is not really easing off. Maybe you should go and get some scans. And so I got some scans and sat with a consultant, and he was like, C5, C6, you break, probably should get plate and screws inserted. It's going to be about 6 hours worth of surgery. And I was just shut down completely. It was horrible because it's like, I've just had 7 weeks where I could have been working on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just left it. Now you're telling me I want surgery or I need surgery. I also can't afford that. What do I do? And actually, I ended up making the decision to not get surgery. It was also challenging because the hospital started to be locked down because of COVID. So it was that challenging situation of, I don't want to have it. I can't afford it. The hospital may not do it anyway, because actually, there's been restrictions started to be put in place. It's just like, right, I'm just going to step away from this and be like, I'll see what happens. I broke my ankle playing rugby just before my 21st birthday. Suggested to have surgery on that. I left it. It's healed naturally. There are a couple of niggles every now and again. So I already knew that my body was capable of healing things, but a broken neck is a little bit different.
A little bit.
So yeah, I just took that stance. I was like, and I have to have faith in myself and see what happens. Thankfully, 18 months later, I got another set of scans, and the consultant said, that's a miracle. You've got range of movements. You've got the strength there. Okay, my neck, if you look at me straight on, is slightly twisted to the right, and it does impinge the nerve, and I get sharp shooting pains every now and again, but on the whole, it's fine. So that situation was, beginning of 2020. We know what happens the rest of 2020 with COVID and the lockdown. So 50% of my business disappeared overnight. So it's like, we were going to do an event, and now we're not. And likewise, all the things that I was pitching for just disappeared. So I struggled to keep it going. I managed to do some online projects, and that's one of the good things about the games industry. A lot of people were able to pivot and say, let's not do live. Let's see how we can do it online, because the community,
Yes.
the players were already familiar with that. So I was able to do a couple of things and keep that going. But I got to that point, 2020, when things were starting to be relaxed, certainly here in Dubai, in terms of, okay, how many people could you go out with? Where could you go out? All that sort of stuff in terms of the lockdowns and the easing of those restrictions. And then I saw a random advert on YouTube, and it's like personal development. And I was like, what have I got to lose? And so I went down that rabbit hole, clicked the advert, went through, read it all, took it, started on the course. And that's where some tough questions were asked. One of which is, what's going to be said at your funeral? What impact and contribution have you made to the world? And I was like, actually, I don't know, not a lot. I've been working in the industry for so long. Yes, I've been supporting governments and big brands and doing all sorts of interesting and cool things, but it's like, that's not really an impact play. That's not really a contribution play. Mm-hmm. So that started me thinking of, what can I do? How can I use my knowledge and my expertise? And so, this is middle 2021. And then the universe works in mysterious ways. I now realize that and accept it, because my partner is, she's a teacher. She's a primary school teacher. So teaching, the younger age of kids. And she's like, I need a maths lesson. My colleagues haven't written and put one on the system for me. What do I do? And from the conversations we'd already had, but all your kids play this game, yeah? And she was like, yeah. Well, how's about we try and create something based on a game, because there's a good chance they'll enjoy it. And so we sat together, over dinner, making notes of like, okay, how can we create a lesson based on maths? We did that. She took it to school. I got a text message the next day. It's like, they love it. They're hooked. Okay, so now I can use my knowledge and experience maybe to create resources. So that led to my first book, which is about managing screen time, managing online safety, and how to use popular video games like Minecraft and Roblox and FIFA and Fortnite for improving math skills. Did that for sort of 8 to 12 months. And then I was doing some online training for parents in the summer of 2023. And I created a model and a framework of the 12 hidden things impacting parents that then affect screen time and online safety and things like that. And I looked at it and I was like, these 12 things are not just for parents. This is actually a model for life. I've worked through some of these things myself. And that's when the 12 chains was created, which is the model that I talk about in my book and my signature program, Chains to Champion. From injury to COVID to personal development to starting in education to then saying, actually, now I've found what it is that I should be focusing on and how I can help people in a big way. Because I realized, yes, I'd broken through some of the chains in my own life. So I had that feeling and spurred on. I wrote the second book in about 60 days. This framework is here. It makes sense. I can fit all the pieces together. I've been through this myself. I've broken through fear because I wrote my first book. I've broken through knowledge because I had to understand how to write it and publish it. Launched a podcast. I don't care with perception because, I wear pink shorts. I wear flowery shirts. I wear yellow trousers, or I have done in the past. It's like, there's certain things that I'd already worked through in my own life. So it's like, I need to share this. I need to try and help other people understand this and some of the things that may be holding them back. So that's where the book comes from. And that's now the mission that I'm on, is to support people in understanding the 12 chains that will hold them back in life, how to break them, and then how to move forward towards the life that they want to live. And that may be setting up a business, being an entrepreneur. And the way that I look at that is, I will try and steer people away from the agency stuff. How can we build businesses that are more based on assets and leverage? Whether that's courses and coaching and books, whether it's affiliate stuff, whether it's, products on Amazon and drop shipping and all those sorts of things, to say, how can we set something up where you don't have to spend all of your time building something, and you can try and build a level of consistency?
Wow. I actually want to go almost back to the beginning when you first found out that you'd broken your neck. How did you get through the fear part of that to the next place? Like, this is before you've done your, so there's a time frame in there where COVID is hitting the world. You have a broken neck and you're going through the dark time. So I'm curious about how you got yourself through that dark space into the space that you are now.
So I was wearing a soft collar all the time. I was sleeping in that as well because it was uncomfortable to sleep. But that time period, again, hindsight is a wonderful thing. It was a blessing because the fact that everything started to be locked down meant that I had to focus on something else. I couldn't focus on my neck because, well, now there's nothing I can do about it. I've said no to surgery. So I need to focus on the other thing. So it was almost a distraction to an extent because it's like in Dubai, we would have in the early days of the lockdowns, we would have a 6 p.m. curfew because they wanted to spray and disinfect the streets. You used to have to get a green pass like once a week to go out for groceries.
Wow.
My partner was then working from home because she could still teach online. So we were, again, in the house together all of the time. And then we're like, right, you've done your lessons for the day. Okay, what are we going to do? Well, we can't go out, let's watch film, sit and play games, whatever it is that we want. So it was always like things to distract from the neck. The neck then became an undercurrent that says, I've just got to deal with this. It's either going to heal or it's not. I'm going to either have issues or I'm not. But there's nothing I can do about it because I'm not getting the surgery. So let's focus on everything else that I can control a bit more. Again, how I use my time, what it is that I'm focusing on, trying to keep the business alive, having those conversations, writing the presentations, all those sorts of things, because that was still the priority. Those are the things that I needed to keep going because there was nothing that I could do about my neck. So, you know what? There's fear here. I'm not fearful to get out of bed, to put a collar on, to move or any of those sorts of things. It's just like I am just going to have to get on with this.
Do you look at that period as, like you said, in hindsight, almost as a blessing?
Yes, because it has changed my overall perspective on pretty much everything. It certainly changed my direction. That whole episode, the injury, the lockdowns into the personal developments. I mentioned, I now believe that the universe has a plan based on everything that's happened and the fact that some of that has been pretty crap. There is a plan there. I might not know it and I might not like it all of the time, but there's something there for me to pursue, to work towards. So that period of time, has been a key moment for me.
Thank you for sharing that. I'd love for you to share what the 12 chains of freedom are.
So the 12 chains, I've split them into 3 levels. The chains at level 1 are those related to self-directed actions, the things that we control a bit more of, how we use our time, how we use our energy, our effort, things like that. Chains at level 2, external influences, the things from the environment around us that impact us. And then the level 3 are the mental images that we create. So at level 1, the self-directed action is knowledge. We often think we have all the knowledge we want in the world. We may have been to college, we may have taken a course. Chances are you know nothing. And I say that in the nicest possible way because I've been through that situation myself. It's like, I want to write a book. Do I know anything about that? Nope. Do I know how to publish it? Nope.
It's actually really funny that that's the first one I listened to in one of the podcasts where you mentioned that. And I thought to myself, I feel the opposite of that. I feel most of the time like I don't know how to do this. I either need to find someone that can do it, or I need to learn how to do it myself, or somewhere in the middle.
But you're an entrepreneur though, aren't you?
Yes.
So almost by default, you have that mindset that says, I've got an idea. I've got a vision for what it is, how I'm going to get there and what I need to know. I'm going to have to find that out as I go along and as I build this thing. For anybody who's in a corporate, a lot of the time it's like, what do I do? Well, I clock in, I clock out. I do a Monday to Friday. I've been trained for the role that I've got. What more do I need? And that's, one of the first exercises in the book. So outside of the 12 chains, one of the first exercises in the book is what's the tail of your life? And tail is it's a 4-quadrant grid, and it's about time, activities, location, and experiences. So how do you want to use your time? What do you want to do with it? 3 hours working per day, then sitting by the beach and having a nice lunch and that sort of stuff. Activities, what are the things that you want to do regularly? So mine is scuba diving, paddleboarding, skiing, snowboarding, those sorts of things. Location, where do you want to be? based, or where do you want to visit? And what are those one-off experiences that you want to have? And when people create those and then look at their knowledge grid, it's like, oh, I've said I want to live on a desert island. I have no idea about the immigration laws, tax laws, buying property. And suddenly they're like, yeah, I don't know the things that I need to know. So knowledge, that's why it becomes a chain, because we don't recognize it a lot of the time. Once we do, and we recognize it in the context of the things that we want to do with our life, then it's like, right, I need to start gaining this new knowledge. So that's why it's one of the first chains. It's about the self-directed actions, because we can go and gain that knowledge. We have that power. It's an action that we can take.
Mm-hmm.
So the other chains at level 1 are speed, convenience, and relationships. Which would you like me to touch on first?
Speed.
Okay, so speed is an interesting one, and it's there, and it's an undercurrent of everything. When we think of speeds, a lot of it is, okay, A to B, okay? How fast are we going? How long is it going to take to get there? Which is fair enough. That's the way that we're often taught. The challenge is, and the reason it's a chain, is that in one breath, we'll be like, I'm not moving fast enough. I'm not achieving my goals. And then in the other breath, it's like, technology is moving too quickly. I can't keep up. And it's like, well, hang on. There's two different speeds there. On one side, you're like, I wish I was moving faster. On the other side, you wish you weren't. So it's getting to that point of appreciation to say, everything has a speed.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that we're trying to do, there is a natural speed to it. In the same way that I could say, you know what? I want to have sold 1 million copies of my book by next week. For that to happen, there are going to need to be things that fall into place at just the right time. There's going to be a natural speed, whether I want it or not. And I have to accept that. And as soon as we can accept that, everything else becomes a bit easier. Because it's like, I know what I'm working towards. I've set my goals, the vision that I have for my life. There are going to be steps on that path. Some of them are going to take longer than others. As long as I'm comfortable with that speed, because I know where I'm going, I can manage everything else.
That's great. I was literally having this conversation about speed with Jenny yesterday, about being okay with being. You feel the outside pressure of a coach, or you feel the outside pressure of life, and you're trying to get to a certain place, and life just tests you. And I'm always like, if you do 1% today and you do 3% tomorrow, and then nothing happens for 3 days, and then you're back at it again, that's okay.
Yeah. Which is funny, because the daily video that I did today, so side note, I set myself a challenge for consistency purposes of doing a daily video every day for a year.
Okay.
I'm on a day sort of 185 or something, 189 today as we're speaking. My message today is, life is going to throw you curveballs. Yesterday, I had my whole afternoon wiped out because I got a headache. I had to put myself to bed. I was like, well, that wasn't planned. I had a whole to-do list. But I had to give myself that time and space to just, all right, time out. Let's just work through this, and then let's come back and get going again. And that's it. Some things, yes, they just take time. We have to give that, and we have to understand that everything has a speed associated with it.
Yes. And I think entrepreneurs with like the inner motor of, I say this all the time, there are days where my day is full. It's full of kids. It's full of life. It's full of work. And if I haven't checked off like the 2 things that I needed to do that day, I'm like, I didn't do anything today.
Yeah, exactly the same. You beat yourself up and you're like, oh man, I've not done it. Yeah, where's that time gone?
I love it. Which of the chains would you like to touch on next?
Convenience is pretty much self-explanatory. We're in a world of all you can eat, on demand, 24/7, push of a button type stuff. So that the one I'd say is self-explanatory. Relationships is interesting because this is also a chain that is self-directed. And so these are the ones when I work with someone or somebody goes through my program, these are the ones that we focus on the most because they're self-directed. Mm-hmm. So relationships, there are those that fuel you and those that drain you. So I do a simple exercise with everybody, and it sounds cliche. It's like, just rate everybody on a scale of 1 to 10. Everybody in your world, whether it's friends, family, colleagues at work, people that you meet in the streets, just give them a score. Because if they're a 6 or less, there's a question of why you've given them a 6 or less. Mm-hmm. And do you really want to be spending time with them? And again, it just helps people open their eyes to say, you know what, you're right. I'm spending time with people that I could be spending elsewhere on other things with a person who doesn't make me feel good. Why am I doing that?
Yeah.
What's the point? So yeah, relationships is a big one in that sense. And sometimes, harsh as it is friends and family, the people that we've sometimes known the longest. We just need to be like, you know what, I'm just going to spend a little less time with them.
What's the rule? It's you're a mix of the top 5 people that you spend time with.
Yeah.
And if one of those people really drains you,
it's not going to help. Yeah.
It's not going to help. Do you have 2 or 3 chains that you find most resonate with people?
Convenience is one, because the activity for convenience is an activity tracker. Just log all of your time, what you do during a day, how long you spend on it, and people then go, I realized I did this thing. I did not realize how much time.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the ladies who went through the program, the comment she wrote to me afterwards was like, after doing this exercise, I realized that the amount of time and energy that I waste eating junk food and sitting on the sofa, just, binge watching, is probably the same amount of energy that it would take me to work on my goals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to necessarily take much more than that. So all I need to do is move from one to the other. And so that for her, it was that realization that says, I'm just wasting time, energy, resources, rather than using them constructively for things that are going to move me forward. So it's a big one, and it's still a trap that I fall into. What have I always done? Well, I've played video games because that's been my release.
Mm-hmm.
I escape into a different world. I try and beat the baddie or go on a quest or whatever, and it's like that for me is an escape. But it also means that that's a rabbit hole that I can disappear down into for multiple hours at a time. I'm like, Phil, what have you done? Where did that time go?
It's a hard balance between that, I think, and hobbies, because a hobby always feels like you have to be doing, or it has to be you're building, or it's constructive or something like that. And there has to be some kind of a balance between the ability to shut your brain off or travel to another world or whatever that looks like. And again, I think people with that inner motor, it's hard to shut off.
Yeah. So I'd say we've touched on fear previously, but fear is one. It's a chain at level 3 because it's about the mental images that we create. We create the images of worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
And if we can recognize that, it starts to become slightly easier to work through them. So, in the book, I talk about the fact that I was scared of skydiving because I had this mental image of the parachute not opening and me going splat. I've since been skydiving. It was an amazing experience.
You don't look splattered at all.
No, I didn't get splattered at all. And it's very rarely that it happens. But those are the things we stop ourselves because we create these mental images. And we're like, oh, that's the thing that could possibly happen. So I'm not going to take that action. But then, the silly thing is on the flip side, I go scuba diving. Do I worry about a great white shark? No, because I've been and asked the questions. I understand where I'm diving and who I'm diving with and, all of those things. And so what may be a fear to one person is not for me. I don't even think about it because the context is different. So fear really is just about that image that we create in our head of a worst case scenario, which means we can also change that image. Mm-hmm. And certainly if we take action and things become more familiar or the context changes, again, we can throw out that image and create a new one.
So many of the great things that we accomplish are on the other side of fear.
Absolutely. And I've recognized that. That's why I'm pushing myself to do things that I've not done before. So the year-long challenge of doing a 2-minute video per day, it's like I'd done TV interviews in the past, working in the games industry and things like that. Yes, I'd done radio interview, and it's like, okay, so media stuff generally felt comfortable. But for me to stand there like a Muppet with my phone in front of my face, recording myself saying, oh, it's like I'd never done that before. So I had to work through that fear. And it's like, okay, this does not feel comfortable to start with. But the more I've done it, it's like, oh, actually, yeah, now it's not too bad. I've got some positive feedback in the comments. And it's like, okay, so it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. Great. So yeah, it is just a case of taking that action and working through things because everything that we want is on that other side.
Absolutely. Do you have a third one?
Yeah. Perception. Okay, so this is also a chain at level 3, mental images. So there's the perception that we have of things. people, places, situations, and experiences. But there's also those mental images that we create of what we think other people think of us.
Yes.
And yeah, that often holds us back. We're worried what somebody's going to think about us, what we say, what we do, what we wear. Why? Life's too short. I now, for my attire, I mentioned it, pink shorts, yellow trousers, flowery shirts, all this sort of stuff. It's like, I don't care. I'm just going to be who I need to be.
Yeah.
Perception and worrying about other people's perception is one of the chains that holds us back. And that's where it ties in with fear as well, because you've got a fear of doing something and other people's reaction, but you've also then got that perception, that mental image you create of what somebody else is going to think of you. So it's not just the reaction piece, it's what they think that they may not say, but you're still worried about what they think. So those two go hand in hand at level 3.
Is the overriding arc of the 12 chains self-awareness?
Self-awareness to be able to redirect yourself. And that's why the first exercise of the tale of your life is about how do you want to live? You've only got one. You've got one life. So what is it that you want to do? What is it you want to achieve? How do you want to live? Now let's help you identify the 12 chains and how they show up in your own life. Because once you've got that, you can start making changes. You can redirect yourself. So the back end of the book is, okay, here are the 4 steps to break a chain. Okay, yes, let's assess where we are right now, what's happening. Let's understand the changes that we can make. Let's introduce those changes and let's repeat and make sure we keep making that progress. It is about uncovering that I guess, that self-realization, but also the redirection to say, I have the power to make changes. I understand where and how I can make these changes. Those are then going to help me move forward to what I want.
When you're working with clients, do you have sort of a number one reaction that you see in real time when someone essentially realizes that they've had this massive blind spot about something in their lives and the light bulb goes off?
It's amazing when it happens, but it's different for everyone. And that's also what makes it interesting, because some people, the first exercise, that tail grid, I had never sat down and thought about it in this way. I did this exercise with a guy and he was like, can I write down that I want to go to Japan for a couple of weeks and learn to be a samurai? Dude, it's your grid. Of course you can. If that's something that you want. So he's interested in martial arts anyway, and he wanted to learn some martial arts. But one of his experiences he wanted to put down was, can I actually go and train and learn to be how a samurai live? And I was like, write it. It's your grid. Now you have something that you want to work towards. There you go. You've got a direction. It's amazing as people go through the program. It's not just about, here are the chains, congratulations, off you go. It's, here are also the exercises to help you work through some of them so that you can redirect yourself.
Very cool. You've had varied businesses and experiences to get to this point in your life. How do you view the journey to this particular success?
Depends on what you class as success. I'm still on a journey. Have I got to the goals that I set myself? No. Am I still working towards them? Absolutely. Success is all relative, and it still comes down to your perception versus somebody else's perception.
What is your perception of where you are now, Philip?
It's very different from where I was 3 years ago. Focused on building an agency, being in the games industry. Now it's about contribution and supporting people. So there is now a mission attached to the things that I spend my time and energy on. There's a shift in terms of how I view business, which I like to think makes me more fully rounded, because I'm now starting to appreciate there are different ways of doing business, and that actually the way that I was trying to do it was not right for me. So, the agency, feast and famine of projects and, waiting 6 months for an invoice to be paid and all that, it's like, I don't need that stress and that hassle. And so I'm in that transition of parking the agency and setting up everything else. So again, I can support more people through the book, the courses, the coaching, all that sort of stuff. But it's still a journey. I am not the finished product. I'm still working through and breaking the chains on a regular basis, because as I continue to take steps and I progress, those chains will come back in some shape or other, because it's like, okay, now your fear may be different, or you've entered a new group or a new room of people because you've progressed on your journey. And let's just throw that 2 years from now, I am a best-selling author, and I'm in a room full of authors. I might still be worried what they think. Okay, the perception. Yeah, okay, I've put my hand up. Thanks. I'm still tied by that chain. We will always be going through, and that's why a lot of this is uncovering and redirecting. So you know, as and when those chains present themselves again, you know the steps you can take to work through them. You can also look back at the track record to say, I've already done this once. Okay, the situation may be a little different, but I've been able to do it. So I am still a work in progress. My journey is not complete. So am I in a very different place from where I was a couple of years ago? Absolutely. Have I now got a clear vision and mission? Yes. Am I excited to see where it goes? Absolutely.
Very cool. It's a great story. Do you have a piece of advice that you'd have for someone that's trying to create a lifestyle that they love?
Oh, there'd be two. One, get clear on what it is that you want and how you want to live, because you can feed everything back from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to sit on a beach all day and answer your emails, well, okay, you've got to pick a beach for one, but you've also got to pick, a work style, whether it's your own job or for somebody else, that enables you to do that. Which then leads on to the second that says, if you're going to try and build something yourself, think about the different business models that can support you. Think about how you can create that leverage that says, if I create something once, how can I then make it available to multiple people? Rather than exchanging time for money, which is the type of thing that I've historically done in the past. Yeah. I'm now trying to move away from, because it's like, you want me to write a strategy for a project? Well, if I'm doing that for you, I can't do it for anybody else at the same time. Great. Okay, so all of my time and energy is focused on one thing. Those would be the two pieces of advice: is think about what it is that you really want and how you want to live, and then think about ways that you can generate the revenue that you need to be able to support that. So if it's your own project, think about those business models.
Amazing. A fantastic conversation, Philip. Thank you. Where can listeners connect with you?
Two main places: philipwride.com. So that's my name, the full spelling, the .com on the ends. And then for the sort of the coaching and membership community that I have, helping people through the 12 chains and making changes in their life, that is at www.freedomhuntersclub.com. And share the name of your book as well, please. The book is called Finally Find Freedom, and it's available on Amazon.
FYI, I have it on order.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Thank you so much, Philip.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to continue your journey to financial empowerment and creating a life you love, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Come follow us on Instagram at Manifestation and Money Podcast or at 4Leaf Lifestyle for more inspiration and behind the scenes content. Remember, your life is yours to live. Your financial freedom journey is as unique as you are. So hop in the driver's seat. It's time to create the life of your dreams.